Welcome back, friends. Welcome back to Solutions Watch. I'm your host, James Corbett of CorbettReport.com, coming to you in May of 2025. And today we're going to be talking about a subject that is, in some ways, the core message of Solutions Watch itself. But this time you don't have to listen to it from me. You can hear it from an outside source. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the simple and very important and very true message that you are the power. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And so, in order to talk about that message, I'm going to bring on today's guest. He is Spike Cohen, and I'm going to guess that probably a sizable percentage of my audience probably knows him as the vice presidential candidate on the Libertarian ticket back in the 2020 presidential selection circus. But he has been doing many other things besides, including the aforementioned You Are the Power, which is a group that he has started. So you can find Spike Cohen directly at spikecohen.com, where it notes Spike Cohen is a successful business owner, libertarian activist, and media figure. He is the founder and president of You Are the Power, a nonprofit focused on using solutions-oriented activism to grow the liberty movement, which sounds like it's right up the alley of Solutions Watch. And you can get more information at youarethepower.net. But we'll get into that. Let's bring him on the program first. Spike, thank you very much for taking the time to talk with us today.
Thank you so much for having me on, James. I'm looking forward to it.
I am looking forward to this too. I think this is an important, not only an important message, but an inspiring idea that you have here. And you've got some successes notched into your belt to talk about. So let's start by setting the table for this. As I say, I'm sure some percentage of my audience will already be familiar with you, but for those who aren't, tell us a little bit about your background and what made you want to start something like You Are the Power.
Yeah, so a little bit about my background. The term has been used, a serial entrepreneur. I'm not sure if I've done enough to be serial, but I am, I guess, multi-entrepreneur. That's close enough. And a few years ago, I decided I was going to get more involved in politics, almost as a lark. I had decided to retire after my MS diagnosis. I decided that it turns out life is actually short and finite, and I wanted to maybe pursue something that I felt like had more purpose. And so I thought, I'll dabble in politics. Got a podcast started, and within a couple of years, I was running for vice president. And many men would rest on their laurels having gotten bronze medal for the vice presidential race, but I decided to keep going. It was actually during the campaign I realized this can't be it. Like going out there, spreading the message of freedom and losing, it cannot be it. And so we decided what we were going to do was we find people, and that's the core of what You Are the Power does. We find people who are being abused and disrespected and having their lives torn apart by out-of-control government officials, and we rally the public around them. We find the specific officials who are doing it to them and exert pressure on them to back off and do the right thing. And for the last year and a half, we've been around for 3 years. For the last year and a half, we have had a 100% success rate in doing that.
That is incredible. So let's find out more about that. And speaking of messages that resonate with my own, yes, the idea of direct action, people doing things for themselves rather than waiting for politicians to do it for them is certainly a message that resonates with me. But more specifically, yes, talking about the incredible successes you've had. Again, for people who want more information, they can go to youarethepower.net, where it says under what we do, You Are the Power works every day to spread human respect, from helping people fight back against out-of-control government officials to helping charities provide for those in need, and much more. We vet our causes very carefully, researching the details independently and diligently so that we can fight with all the information at hand. And then it invites you to check out the active causes and see how you can help right now. And there's a list of active causes. Perhaps the best way to start talking about what you do is to give a specific example of a case that you have taken on and what has resulted from it. So is there anything in the news wires right now that my audience should know about?
Yeah, in fact, one we can do right now is, if you're wondering why it looks like I'm in a hotel room, it's because I am. I'm actually in Atlanta right now, where we have been helping the Hernandez family in their trial after they were accused of child abuse. And about a year and a half ago, the Hernandez family came to our attention, and they were the first. It turned out to be first of many, but we'll get into that in a second. Matt and Tucky Hernandez have two children, Emma and Aria. Emma is the youngest, and she started being fussy and having bruises, and just it was obvious there was something wrong. And so they took Emma to a hospital. Now, unbeknownst to them, she has multiple chronic health conditions that are causing her to have minor fractures and bruising across her body. And they didn't know that at the time; it was just beginning. And they went to a children's hospital. At every children's hospital in the U.S., there is something called a child abuse pediatrician, which incidentally is not an actual specialty. They take a very short course, and lo and behold, a regular doctor at an ER is now a child abuse pediatrician. And it's their job to determine if abuse happened or not. And so this doctor, Dr. Stephen Messner, decided that this was abuse by not looking at any of her medical records and not looking at her overall health history, but just looking at x-rays. And we'll get more to why that is in a second. So they were accused of abuse. Their children were taken from them. They were arrested. They were told that they could not speak with each other or live with each other or communicate with each other through a proxy. So not only did they lose their children overnight, having done nothing wrong, but they were also legally and indefinitely estranged from one another for the better part of a year, actually, on that case. They were not allowed to access their children's medical records. They both went and spent tens of thousands of dollars to get the medical records. They get the records. It shows that there's obviously something wrong here medically. They get medical experts specialists, pediatric specialists who say, yep, indeed, she has some issues. And they think, oh, thank goodness I can now go to the family court and explain all this away. The judge wouldn't allow it to be shown in family court. She would only listen to the testimony of the so-called child abuse pediatrician who brought no evidence to the trial and simply said, yeah, if you look at these types of these injuries, statistically, they tend to be caused by abuse. And when he was asked by the attorney to cite the source of that statistic, he said, you can look it up on the internet. That was the only thing that was allowed. And based on that, their children were placed in foster care, and they were well on their way to being ordered for reunification, non-reunification, which means they will be placed for adoption. They'll never see their kids again. And thankfully, one of those foster parents, Jennifer Williams, knew something was wrong here and contacted us. We found out about it. We vetted it very heavily because child abuse allegations are very, very serious. And so we vetted it very heavily. All the medical evidence showed that they were in the right and the state was in the wrong. And so we put it out there. Two things happened. First thing that happened was we were able to get the judge to do a complete 180 and allow them to start seeing their kids again. And then the other thing that happened was parents from across the country came out of the woodwork saying this is exactly what happened to us. And we learned very quickly after vetting their families that this is not a rogue agent or a rogue pediatrician or even a rogue agency. The federal government, under Title 4D of the Social Security Act, gives money to state child protective services, but only whenever they make an allegation of abuse. So they are subsidizing a specific outcome. And now many of the states have harmonized their funding so that they too will only give money to CPS, or at least more than the bare bones funding, but only when there's an allegation of abuse. And it turns out when you tell someone that you pay them more if something happens, you'll get more of that. And so it turns out that this is a major problem. And it's essentially child trafficking under the color of law. And this is a problem that has been getting worse for decades. We have reunited multiple families. We got legislation passed in Georgia just a couple weeks ago that fixes a lot of the problems that allowed this to happen in the first place. And then on Friday, the Hernandez family, despite the judges and the DA's best efforts working together, the jury saw through their nonsense and they voted not guilty. And I was actually able earlier today on Sunday to worship with the Hernandez family at their church.
That is an incredible story. But I think there's an important point in there that you make, and that I think you're right to stress, that you vet your cases very carefully. Because, of course,
yes,
we are all incredibly concerned about actual child abuse that really does happen. And you certainly would not want to take on a case of actual abusive parents who are taking advantage of your services there. So tell us about that vetting process and what you do to make sure that you are on the right side here.
So initially, before we were taking on these types of cases, the average vetting took anywhere from an hour to maybe 5 hours. You know, other cases that we deal with are like eminent domain abuse, people having their homes taken from them, their businesses taken from them, people being arrested for speaking at their city council meetings, people being wrongfully arrested and the police refusing to release the body cam footage to exonerate them. Charities that are being threatened with arrest for feeding people in need. Things that they can be vetted fairly easily. We read news reports, we look at video footage, and we go, yeah, okay, that's what happened. With this, we spend upwards of 100 hours, sometimes more, vetting these causes for the reason you cited. We do not even inadvertently want to be helping someone who actually did harm a child, not to mention what it would do to our reputation, and rightfully so. We do not ever want resources to be put into to helping someone who actually did harm a child, harm anyone, much less a child. And so it is very heavy. We have forensic specialists, we have medical experts, we have people that have worked in child protective services. We have experts that have come from all over, and our vetting process is now the envy of investigative journalists and attorneys' offices, and even some of these departments of human services have told us, like, your way of doing it is as thorough or more thorough than anything we've done. It is incredible. And it's something we built. I have to credit my volunteer director, Ryan Ralston, who has been just instrumental in developing this system. And it's only getting better over time. But it is, like I said, it's the envy of many. And it has allowed us in a streamlined way to determine that when people are indeed 100% innocent, and to be able to jump on their causes and to exert public pressure to get officials to let them have their children back.
Well, something that you also stressed earlier was that part of what you do and part of the way that you operate is by finding the specific officials that are responsible for these abuses of injustice. Tell us about that tactic and how that operates.
It is demoralizing to tell people that they are going after a system. It doesn't. It's okay. The system is failing us. The child support, the child protective service system is failing us. The family courts are failing us. The state of whatever state we're going after is failing us. The social security system is failing us, and that's true. But first of all, it's whistling past the actual issue, which is that there are people in those positions who are choosing to do these things. But it also demoralizes the people who would want to help you. And so what we do is we make it very personal. Part of the principle of human respect is recognizing people as individual human beings. And that's not just our strategy or our end goal. It's also our tactic. Instead of talking about how, America's being affected by this or families across the country are being affected by it, we focus on the Hernandez family, the Sullivan family, the Clark family, the Timms family, and so on. And then when we go after the officials involved, we don't say, and this department is ruining their life. We say, this caseworker, this family court judge, this DA, this judge, and this child abuse pediatrician. And then we get their publicly available contact information. And then we put it on our website, and we invite people to go there. We even give them wording they can use in case the wording that they would use on their own isn't particularly constructive at the moment. And we remind people, I'm as angry as you are, but let's do this respectfully. If for no other reason, then we don't want them to be able to play the victim, right? It's not about how we feel about it and how angry we are. It's about doing the right thing and giving these kids back. We want them to do the right thing. We want them to turn and to soften their hearts, and so that we can thank them. And that's actually happened. The head of DFACS, which is the Division of Family and Children Services in Georgia, the head of that department, division, is named Candace Brose. And at one point, she was kind of one of our greatest enemies, and now she's one of our greatest allies. There was a softening of the heart there. She saw what was happening, and to her credit, she wants to be part of the solution and not the problem. And that happened because we reached out to her with respect, but also with determination and with insistence. This is going to get fixed. We would like you to be on our side.
Well, this is it. That's an important part of this message because, of course, yes, we do not want to play into the public perception of vigilantism and, whipping up an angry mob that's going to start attacking officials or something. Of course, we don't want to play into that. But also, yes, you are more likely to have results when you treat people with respect and lead them towards the self-evident truth than you are to simply start attacking people or being violent or rowdy with them. So I think that's an important part of all of this. But you've talked, for example, in particular about the Hernandez case. Can you give us an overview of what other cases you're working on right now and what you've done in the past?
Well, there are countless other, well, I shouldn't say countless. There are many different families whose stories are nearly identical to the Hernandez family. I named a few of them, the Tims, the Clarks, the Saveleys, and there are a few others. And we've helped them to get their children back. We've helped to get charges dropped. Like I said, we've gotten legislation passed in Georgia that fixes the bulk of the problems that were allowing this kind of abuse to happen in the first place. And we're already having lawmakers reach out to us in other states asking us how we can how they can. First of all, they often ask us, "Do we have this problem in our state?" They don't know. Some of them do, but some of them don't know. And we say, "Oh yeah, it's a problem in all 50 states." And then they say, "Well, look, can we talk about how to fix it?" And so that's happening as well. But like you said, the CPS abuse, family reunification is just one of the many things we deal with. We have dealt with cases. A more recent case was where a lady by the name of Rebecca Massey, she lives in Surprise, Arizona. She showed up to her city council meeting to call out the mayor and the city council for some pretty sketchy stuff they were doing with the budget. The mayor responded by saying, "You're not allowed to name any of us by name." And she said, "I absolutely am. The Constitution affords me that." So we had her arrested in front of her minor daughter and charged with a bunch of bogus charges. And they hoped that she would just plea down where they dropped the charges and she just wouldn't come and bother them anymore. Instead, she reached out to us and we got the public on those officials. The charges were dropped. The mayor and the city attorney resigned. And she's now on the warpath to expose the corruption there. And she's actually now our West Region organizer for You Are the Power. We've dealt with cases, a recent case with a charity, actually multiple charities in South Carolina, North Carolina, West Virginia, and Ohio. Same thing with all of them. They were out feeding people. There was no problem. They were leaving the place cleaner than they found it, and they were helping people. But those cities all wanted to have a homelessness crisis that they could have to fix with your tax dollars. And so the best way to do that is to muscle out any competition that's trying to fix it without your tax dollars. And so they were threatening them with arrest. We put the public pressure on those officials to back off, and every single one of them did. And now those people, those charities are able to help people in need, not just to give them food, but to give them a hand up, drug counseling, detox, jobs counseling, and getting their GED and things like that, like getting back on their feet so that they can have the dignity that comes with being back on their feet, and they're able to do that unmolested. And all of that comes from a very simple formula we came up with. Find people who are being harmed, find the people who are doing it, find out who to reach them, tell a bunch of other people about it, have them talk to these people over here and say, stop doing that, and then watch in amazement as it works over and over again. We are 22 for 22.
Well, that is an inspiring and awesome story. And I imagine there's a few different groups in the audience right now, one of which will be the, excuse me, that group of people who themselves are in a situation where they think they might need the help of a group like You Are the Power. How can people get in touch with you and see if they can get their case taken up? If you go to youarethepower.net, there is a contact form. Fill it out. If you can give basic information on the contact form, we'll have someone follow up with you, and you can give all the details that you have. The more details, the better. And if there's anything we can do to help you, we will do it. Even in cases where there's not enough readily available information for us to feel confident in going public with it, we might be able to help you privately to get resources that you need to be able to get help. But if there's enough there that we can go public with it, we will do so, and we will win. God willing, we will continue to win. If you want to be a part of You Are the Power, go to youarethepower.net, and there you can actually go to youarethepower.net/join, or just go to youarethepower.net and press the join button and become a member today. You'll get connected with your regional organizer, your state organizer, and you can bring stuff to us. We can bring stuff to you. You can be a part of our network that gets you involved in our activist network, that gets you involved in our regular newsletter that we put out. And you can be a part of this growing movement to demand respect as individual human beings. That's excellent. And in fact, you anticipated my next question there, because as I was going to say, I think another section of the audience are people who probably want to get involved and want to contribute. What kinds of things can the volunteers do for You Are the Power?
So some of the things that they do, they bring causes to us. right? Like it's already like drinking from a fire hose when it comes to the causes that are being brought to us. But very often, some of the best causes that we've had, the most successful causes that we've had, have come from our members who already knew a lot of the information. So instead of someone just hitting us with a link with information, they already have all that information. And then if it's in their backyard or they're ready to be the point person on it, they have and this is where the whole you are the power comes from. They have the ability, and we give them the latitude and the help and the assistance and the resources to be able to be the lead on that issue. And we can help form a team around them. And we can do in addition to the online public pressure campaigns, we can do in-person rallies that happen right before council meetings or board meetings, so we can get a bunch of people together. And when we do rallies, they're not angry protests and people feel fearful or anything like that. Bring your kids. Like, our rallies are stuff that you could bring your kids to, and then we're all going to go in and learn some civics lessons for the kids too, on how you can confront your public officials in a respectful but insistent way. You can get involved with helping us with our existing causes. You can take part in our training modules that teach you how to be a more effective activist, not just in terms of tactic, but also in terms of the background of the principle, the underlying principle behind why we do what we do. Very often, in addition to learning how to do something, learning why we're doing it can help strengthen and bolster your conviction for why you're doing it in the first place. So there are a host of things that we offer when you become a member. There is free membership. Obviously, we are dependent on resources to be able to do what we do. So there are paid memberships as well. Those come with both some cool swag and also the knowledge that you're helping to sustain you with the power. But if you're not in a position to do that, or you want to, kick around the tires first a little bit, join as a free member. We'd love to have you.
Excellent. Well, as I say, I think people can go to youarethepower.net, explore your past causes and what you're working on, and find out about those membership opportunities. But I guess the other section of the audience will be those like myself who are not in the United States and are not directly able to work with a group like You Are the Power, but might be interested in just the idea of something like this, and perhaps even starting it in their own locale, wherever they happen to be in the world. Given the experience that you've had building this organization up over the past few years, what advice would you give to people who are looking to do something like this for themselves?
Well, the first thing I would say is that we are actually interested in coming up with international chapters of You Are the Power. We've talked with folks about it. It has not been, at one point, it was more of a priority than it is now. And then we exploded in growth here nationally. So we're kind of hyper-focused on making sure we keep the ship right here. But if someone reached out to us and wanted to start, we'd certainly be happy to have that conversation. Now, with that said, even if you don't want to do it under the You Are the Power brand or ethos or anything else, I would say the biggest thing you can do to get plugged in is to start showing up to local government meetings. There is so much treachery happening in your backyard, and it's happening in the most boring way that it possibly could happen. They're not sitting there in a dark room and, what evil can we inflict on the world today? They're drinking coffee to stay awake. There's that phrase, I think it was C.S. Lewis who said the banality of evil, and you can watch it firsthand. And the real banality of it is they don't even realize it's evil. They've so convinced themselves that they're just doing their jobs that they're sitting in there, they're struggling to stay awake. They're bored. It's usually at the end of a business day, and they're just coming in and messing people's lives up left and right, and they're just doing their thing. And people will show up at those meetings and say, "Please stop doing this." You'll have someone that shows up and says, "I need my pothole fixed, or I need a speed bump in front of my house," or whatever. But then you'll have people show up saying, "Please stop doing this to me, whatever it is. Stop trying to take my home. Stop trying to make my grandfather move into a senior home instead of living with us. Stop trying to, steal my children from me. Stop all these different things." And the officials are yawning through it. They're bored. And so when you show up, you might not even know what your cause is yet. But if you stick around long enough, you'll find them. And I will say, if you're not joining an organization like You Are the Power that has, a vetting system in place, we kind of take away a lot of that from you having to worry about that because we do it. But I'll say, if you're wanting to do it on your own or with a smaller network of people, make sure that you're vetting these causes, because every once in a while you're going to run into someone who you're not getting the whole story. Maybe some of it's true, but you're not getting the whole story, and it's not going to help your reputation to help them, and nor would it be the right thing to do to help them. And sometimes they're outright lying. So I would say get involved, go to local meetings, find out what's happening, get plugged in, vet causes that you find. And if it's a legit cause, you now have a cause to work on. You can spread it to your local network of friends and associates. You can, all your social media contacts. You can let You Are the Power know about it, and we can help apply pressure to. I mean, technically, there's nothing that says that we can't apply pressure to something that's out of the country. I mean, we haven't done it yet, but I'm not sure that there's anything legally preventing us from doing that. We're simply asking people to, find out about something and to let them know what they think about it. I don't think there's any law against that. I may be wrong, but at least as far as I know, there isn't. And if there is, then we can certainly direct you in how you can how you can do more on your end. So reach out to us. Let us know.
Excellent. Well, once again, I'm compelled to note that what you say resonates very strongly with things that I believe. For example, local activism in your local area, things that you actually have in your community that you have more of a say over anyway than the big national and international sideshow that they want to use to distract you from your real power. So I think it is important for people to be concentrating on their local area. Also, on that very note, I did have a propaganda watch episode several years ago called "The End of the World Will Bore You to Tears," talking about the very mundane, banal, boring titles that they give these types of working committees that are working on some little tax treaty, whatever. Who cares? You don't need to know about it. It's got a big long title. You don't read this. It's not important. That's generally where the important stuff really is happening. So I think
we were
people to take a look at that.
At this trial, the Hernandez trial, they're about to find out whether or not they're about to each spend the next 40 years in prison and not see their children, not be allowed to have any contact with their children or each other during that time. And the judge and the prosecution are acting like they're about to get together and see if the TPS report is due, on Monday or after the long holiday, if it's due on Friday. Like, I mean, they're giggling to each other. They're just kind of sitting around, they're rolling their eyes, they're bored. And you see the Hernandez family that's about to find out what their life is going to look like for the rest of their lives, essentially. And you realize that again, banality of evil. These folks that are doing it to them have so dehumanized the people they're doing it to that it would be like some pest control people having a nice coffee and talking together before they go in and spray a house and kill thousands of bugs. It's like the same level of don't care. And that speaks to the principle of what we do. When you are successfully able to, in your head somewhere, dehumanize someone and see them as something other than what you are, an individual human being, that opens up the possibility of everything from taking their children from them, taking their home from them, taking their freedom from them, or even taking their lives from them. And at whatever scale that is, insert genocide or atrocity here, it all starts with dehumanizing people, taking away inside of your own head, taking away the reality that they are individual human beings. And that is our principle. To whatever level we are being respected as individual human beings, we are that much more prosperous and harmonious and happy. And conversely, to whatever extent that we aren't, we're less so of all of those things. And that's at the core of everything we do. We band together and we demand at its core to be respected as individual human beings, and we respect them as individual human beings. You are not your agency. You are not your department. You are not your DA or your whatever, your office. You are not your job. You are a human being that can choose to do things differently, and we are insisting that you do so. And when you do so, you're on our side, and we love you now, and we thank you. And that's the way we've been doing it. And like I said, it is at the core of what we do, and it has been wildly successful. It continues to do so.
Excellent. Well, respect for the individuality of each person also means holding them accountable for their individual actions.
Yes, exactly.
So an important part of this equation. Excellent. An inspiring message, ultimately, because, of course, it is about you. You are the power, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. So I hope people, at the very least, will check out youarethepower.net, and from there, perhaps they'll check out your personal website at spikecohen.com. But we'll direct people there, and they can start exploring the causes and see if this is an organization they want to support. Is there any other information you want to present, or any other places you'd like to direct people to?
No, yeah, youarethepower.net. The only thing that the only thing else that I will say is thank you so much for having me on. Thank you all to all of you and for tuning into this. We'd love to have you be a part of it, and I pray that God blesses all of you.
Excellent. Spike Cohen, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.